Hi everyone, welcome into this week's My Weekly CBS Fix. In this week's Parshas Vayigash, the Torah tells us that Yaakov is finally informed that his long-lost son Yosef is actually still alive. And it was very hard for him to believe them at first, but then he saw this sign that Joseph had sent along with his brothers. He said, "Show my father these agalos, these cattle, these calves." And with that, he will believe you, because that was the last Torah portion that they had studied together. And the Torah says when he saw that, so the spirit of Hashem came back to Yaakov Avinu, the spirit of prophecy came back to Yaakov Avinu, and he believed them. And the question that I was wondering is that if Hashem was going to give Jacob back the spirit of prophecy, which he had lost because he was mourning for his son the last 22 years, and the spirit of prophecy can only rest upon somebody who is in a state of joy. And since Jacob was mourning, he could not rest his presence. Hashem could not rest his presence on Jacob. So if the spirit of prophecy was going to be given back to him, why did he first need to see the wagons, the calves that Joseph had sent back? Why didn't, right when he had heard the news from his sons, hey, guess what? Joseph is still alive and he's the leader over the entire land of Egypt. That should have been enough of a newsflash for Jacob. And now he has that knowledge that Joseph is still alive. He should be happy. And Hashem should give him back his spirit of prophecy. Why the need for him to actually, for it to be proven to him by the sign of the calves that Joseph had sent? So, three possible things. My brother and I were also talking about this that I came up with. The one is that first, initially, Jacob felt that maybe he was unworthy, that Hashem would have done such an amazing thing, and therefore, like the Torah says, "Vayafik libo," he rejected it from his mind because he didn't believe them. Hashem should do such a thing for me. After all this time, I thought my son was dead, and yet here he was the entire time being a king in the land of Egypt. So that's why he didn't believe it. But eventually he saw proof, and when he saw the proof, so therefore he became happy, and that's when Hashem rested, again, the spirit of prophecy back on Jacob. Another answer is that Hashem expects that we have to believe something can actually happen. If we don't believe that it can happen, that it's not going to happen. The knowledge, though, that Joseph had, that Yaakov had, when he actually saw the calves, that actually allowed his heart not to reject it. His heart actually opened up to that possibility. And when their heart is opened up to the possibility that something can be done, then, gosh darn it, it can be done and anything can happen. And that allowed a spirit of happiness to come into Yaakov's heart, and Hashem then rested his spirit of prophecy on him. So we have to believe that Hashem can do anything. And the third answer I wanted to share with you, which is brought in the Avos Derab Nasan, with a commentary on the Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, that it wasn't that Jacob didn't have faith in Hashem, and that he didn't believe that Hashem could do anything. The problem was the messengers of the message. The messengers were his sons, who 22 years earlier had brought to him a piece of clothing dipped in blood and saying, "This is Joseph's clothing. This is Joseph's clothing. It must be that a wild animal had eaten him alive, and that he died." And now that's all he believed the last 22 years. And now these same brothers, these same sons of his, are coming with this great news. So what we're learning from over here is that we're to be very, very careful with our words, because the words that we say can make an impression on somebody, and somebody can maybe think, hey, this guy, you said one thing, and all of a sudden you're saying the exact opposite. So I'm not sure which story to actually believe. So and the verse actually says this, but Yafik is leaving, his heart rejected them, ki lo hemin lahem, he did not believe them, not because he didn't have faith. He didn't believe them because initially they had reported something else to him. And sometimes if a person can be a liar, then even when he wants to say the truth, he's not either listened to, as I think we've shared this message before. But either way, those three ideas, either Jacob felt he was unworthy that Hashem should do it for him, or that he couldn't open his heart until he actually had seen something that would have allowed it to prove it to him, and that knowledge allows him to open up his heart, and Hashem then does the rest. Or he believed the entire time, but Hashem didn't but Yaakov didn't trust his sons because they had told him something to the contrary. So be careful, very, very careful with our words. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you for listening. Any questions, feel free to call. Take care. Good Shabbos.